Hello, friends, and thank you as always for visiting the Legend Sports Universe YouTube channel, Legend Sports Universe, where legends play forever. Thank you for tuning in to the Stuff of Legends podcast, where sports simulation meets sports history. We got a busy night tonight as we cover the Wildcard playoff games from the Legend Sports Universe Football League and set up the divisional matchups. We will also analyze last night's broadcast of the Legend Sports Universe Baseball League's Year 5 Rookie Draft, which will tie into our Drama in Real Life segment, featuring the greatest rookie classes in Major League history. You'll notice a couple of adjustments periodically here visually, and that's the inclusion of more notes at the bottom of the different player and stat graphics that draw upon some historic references, real-life facts, etc. Sometimes I'll talk about these things in varying degrees of detail, but sometimes they'll just be historic factoids. The Drama in Real Life segment is the real history heavy portion of Stuff of Legends, because that merge of sim life and history, even in a non replay setting like I do, matters to me, and it's also fertile discussion ground. But I feel like these little nods to history in other spots will resonate well with those tuning in to the Legend Sports universe as a whole, and to the Stuff of Legends in particular. So, with that, it's time to take this episode's trip across the universe. We kick off with the LSUFL playoffs, where the Wildcard games were held earlier this week on the channel, setting up our 4 divisional round matchups. We open in Pittsburgh, where the Cincinnati Bengals visited the division champion Pittsburgh Steelers, hoping the third time would prove to be the charm, after dropping both contests between the two during the regular season. Less than 2 minutes left in the opening quarter, after a Gary Anderson field goal tied the game at 3. It's Lamar Parrish, who picked up his first kick return TD of the season in the finale against Cleveland. He does it again here. 95 yards, he is off to the races, and the crowd comes to a hush at Acrisure Stadium. Little over 5 minutes left in the half, it's now 13-3 Cincinnati. But here, Ben Roethlisberger from the 10 hits Dick Hoke out in the flat. There's not a Bengal to be found. Scampers inside the pylon, and the Steelers cut the deficit back to 3. It's 13-10. Bengals driving late, hoping to at least get into field goal range before halftime. But Joel Steed hammers Ken Anderson to jar it loose and kill the drive. The Steelers recover, and we would head into the tunnel, still 13-10 Cincinnati. But with the touchdown and then the turnover, the Steelers felt like they were taking momentum, and they would get the ball as we start the second half. But the Steelers would do nothing on their opening possession. They would, however, pin the Bengals deep for their first touch of the second half. Cincinnati here with a 3rd and 14 from their own 8, and Anderson finds Carl Pickens over the middle to convert on the 3rd and long. A brutal letdown by the Steelers defense there. Bengals would proceed on a lengthy drive but settle for another Doug Pelfrey field goal that would make it 16-10. Pittsburgh would go 3 and out, and the Bengals would score again. And this time, it wouldn't just be 3. From 36 yards out, it's Anderson to Pickens, who slips along the sideline past Minkah Fitzpatrick and into the end zone. The Bengals would then cash in on their 2-point conversion to extend the lead to 24-10. Steelers would drive, but on a 4th and 1, Coach Bill Cowher would elect to kick a field goal. Thinking there's still 14 minutes left in the game, ask the defense to get a stop and get the ball back quickly, and then you can make it a 1-score game with more than half of the final quarter left. And the defense would do its job. The Steelers would start a hopeful drive to make Cowher's plan look smart. In Cincinnati territory with more than 8 minutes left, Roethlisberger would drop and roll right, throwing into tragedy. That's Jim LeClair, who had the huge stop of Ozzie Newsome on the 1-yard line in the final play of the regular season to punch Cincinnati's playoff ticket. He comes through here to drive a stake through the Steelers' heart. 31-13 Cincinnati after the pick six. It would end 38-13, and the Bengals would set up a date in Buffalo with the top-seeded Bills next week. To Detroit we go. Opening drive, Falcons, after converting on a pair of third and longs, put together a 7-minute drive that sees Matt Ryan find Michael Haynes in the end zone. Touchdown Falcons, and it's 7-0 Atlanta. Lions coach Dan Campbell would run the ball on 9 of the first 10 plays for Detroit, and would stick with that theme throughout the first half. To a fault. Drives would stall after starting well, and the Falcons offense would march and score. Here, 16 yards out, a little under 10 minutes left in the second quarter, and it's Ryan to Haynes again. 10 plays, 84 yards, 4 third down failures for Detroit, and a 14-0 Falcons lead. Lions still trying to grind it out on the ground until they have to pass. 3rd and 11, 5 and change left in the half, and Mitchell gets sacked by trade deadline pickup Jason Gilden, who has been terrific for the Falcons since acquiring him from Pittsburgh. The Lions would have to punt again. They wouldn't even get a field goal attempt out of this drive. Inside 2 minutes now, left in the first half, Ryan drops back, and this time it's the deep ball. 44 yards to Alfred Jenkins, who beats Night Train laying deep, and Atlanta extends the lead. Younghoe Koo would miss the extra point, but still, it would be 20-0 Falcons. Less than a minute left in the half. Campbell with no choice at this point but to actually open things up a bit. And look at what happens. Scott Mitchell to Golden Tate. 65 yards, he gets free on a deeper sort of drag route. And the Falcons blow coverage. Tate heads to the end zone. Ford Field wakes up, and the Lions are in business, but still down 13, heading into halftime. They would never get closer though. Late in the third, it's still 20-7. Ryan finds Roddy White from 10 yards out to make it 28-7 after the 2-point conversion, and the Falcons would coast behind 6 touchdown passes from Matt Ryan to a 42-14 victory, serving notice to the top-seeded Eagles that the Dirty Birds are coming in hot. So that sets up our divisional round. On the AFC side, the Bengals visit the number 1 seed Buffalo Bills, who led the LSUFL with a 13-1 mark. It will surely be frigid in Buffalo, where O.J. Simpson, Bruce Smith and company will look to turn up the heat on Sam Wyche's squad. The other AFC battle sees the Kansas City Chiefs visit the Indianapolis Colts in what figures to be a defensive struggle. The Colts allowed the fewest points in the league, while the Chiefs allowed the 3rd fewest and the fewest total yards. This one may come down to which quarterback, Steve DeBerg, who continues to surprise, or Burt Jones, plays better. In the NFC, the Falcons, as mentioned, visit the NFC's only 10-win team, the Philadelphia Eagles, who look to shake off last year's NFC title game loss to the 49ers, in which they lost both Jalen Hurts and Reggie White, and take a step for the second crack at the conference title. Matt Ryan tore up the Lions, but facing the league's number 5 defense is far different than facing the 27th ranked Lions. On the other side, the surging New Orleans Saints host the stumbling Arizona Cardinals, who scored only a safety in the season finale loss to the 49ers, but survived after the Seahawks upset the Rams. Can the Cardinals wipe the slate clean and find the form that saw them start this season 4-0? Can their number 3 rush defense contain the Saints' surprising duo of George Rogers and Mark Ingram? It all comes to you next week here on the channel. We'll do a pair of doubleheader football nights, the AFC on Tuesday, the NFC on Thursday. And when those wrap, we'll know our conference championship matchups for year 2 of the Legend Sports Universe Football League. Next, we head to baseball, where the Legend Sports Universe Rookie Draft took place in June of year 5, which streamed last night on the channel. You can see all 150 players taken in the draft in that stream, but here we're just going to focus on the 12 real-life Hall of Famers slated to enter the LSUBL in year 6. In any draft, the conversation always turns to the legends, the players whose impact transcends their era. And in a project such as this, there are always Hall of Famers entering each year. This year, there are 12 men who will define the league for years to come. Let's take a closer look. The Cooperstown Dozen. We have to start with the man who might be the most dominant offensive force that the game has ever seen. Ty Cobb, drafted by the Detroit Tigers. For a team that desperately needed a bat, they got the ultimate weapon. Cobb was a hitting machine, plain and simple. He won an astonishing 12 batting titles, including 9 in a row. He retired with a career average of .366, the highest in baseball history. He collected 4,189 hits, won the Triple Crown and an MVP award in 1909, and was a member of the inaugural Hall of Fame class in 1936. Known for his ferocious, aggressive style on the base paths, Cobb wasn't just a player, he was a force of nature who intimidated opponents and bent the game to his will. The perfect, immediate solution to Detroit's offensive struggles. Next, it's a perfect marriage of player and team again. George Brett to the Kansas City Royals. The Royals had a black hole at third base and have had a lifeless offense, although it has started to rebound over the last year with the trade pickups of Dwight Evans and Wally Berger. But Brett is the answer to both problems, and then some. A 13-time All-Star and the 1980 American League Most Valuable Player, Brett is one of the greatest third basemen of all time. He's the only player in history to win a batting title in 3 different decades, 1976, 1980, and 1990. He finished his 21-year career, all with the Royals, with 3,154 hits, 317 homers, and a career average of .305. Brett was the heart and soul of the Royals, a fiery leader whose competitive spirit defined the franchise and led them to a World Series title. He is the franchise savior that Royals fans here in the LSUBL have been praying for. For a franchise with no history of success, the San Diego Padres found their identity in Tony Gwynn. Mr. Padre was a hitting savant, a true artist with the bat. In a 20-year career spent entirely in San Diego, Gwynn won 8 batting titles, tying the National League record. He was a 15-time All-Star, gathered 3,141 hits, and finished with a remarkable .338 career batting average. He was also a very strong defensive player, winning 5 Gold Gloves. Gwynn was the ultimate student of hitting, famously one of the first players to utilize video to study his swing. He is the beacon of hope and the cornerstone the Padres will build around, if all goes well for them, for the next 2 decades. The Chicago Cubs add one of the game's first true superstars, Cap Anson. A foundational figure in baseball history, Anson was a dominant player manager for 2 decades. He was the first player in history to reach the 3,000 hit plateau, finishing with 3,435. He won 4 batting titles and was a feared power hitter in the dead ball era. Anson was a leader, a winner, and a true innovator of the game. For a Cubs team that has needed a power bat and a big sturdy presence in that lineup, they get a legend who brings both in spades. The Boston Red Sox added a franchise icon in Carl Yastrzemski. Yaz played his entire 23-year career in Boston, becoming a beloved figure. His crowning achievement came in 1967, pun fully intended, when he won the Triple Crown and the American League Most Valuable Player Award, and leading the Impossible Dream Red Sox to the World Series. An 18-time All-Star, Yastrzemski was a complete player, winning 7 Gold Gloves for his stellar defense in left field. He retired with 3,419 hits and 452 home runs. While the fit is questionable for a team loaded with outfielders, the talent in picking up Yaz is undeniable. The Cincinnati Reds get their shortstop of the future and a franchise cornerstone in Barry Larkin. A Cincinnati native, Larkin was the complete package. He won the 1995 National League Most Valuable Player Award, was a 12-time All-Star, and won 9 Silver Slugger Awards. But he was just as good with the glove, winning 3 Gold Gloves. He was the captain and leader of the Reds for years, a true 5-tool talent who could hit for average, hit for power, run, and field his position with grace. He is the perfect star to build what has to this point been a struggling offense around. The Los Angeles Dodgers add a key piece of their Boys of Summer dynasty, first baseman Gil Hodges. A powerful slugger and a sublime defensive player, Hodges was an 8-time All-Star who won the first 3 Gold Glove awards ever given to a first baseman. For a decade, he was one of the most feared run producers in the National League, driving in more than 100 runs in 7 consecutive seasons. He finished with 370 career home runs and was the beloved leader of multiple Dodgers championship teams. For a contender looking for another big bat, Hodges is the perfect fit, although it does raise the question what the future holds for Dan Brothers, who has been terrific for the Dodgers since the LSUBL began. They thought he might leave after last season. Instead, they offered him arbitration. He does have 1 year of arbitration left, but he's going to come at a price if the Dodgers offer him that. So they may let him walk and decide that Hodges is the first baseman of the future. The New York Yankees bolstered their bullpen with one of the most intimidating and dominant closers in history, Rich Goose Gossage. With his menacing glare and blazing fastball, Gossage was a pioneer of the modern closer role. He was a 9-time All-Star who recorded 310 saves over a 22-year career. He wasn't just a 1-inning pitcher. He was a fireman who would often come in for 2 or 3 innings to shut down the heart of the opposition's lineup. So again, he kind of started the real defined role of closer, but obviously the modern closer is now a 1-inning guy. Gossage was anything but that, as he will tell you anytime you get to hear him speak. That said, for a perennial contender like the Yankees, adding a Hall of Fame closer is a championship level move. The San Francisco Giants reached back to the 19th century to grab one of the most feared pitchers of his time, Amos Russi. The Hoosier Thunderbolt was a true fireballer in that era. His velocity was so overwhelming, he is credited with being the reason that the pitcher's mound was moved back from 50 feet to its current 60 feet and 6 inches. He won 246 games in just 10 seasons, including a remarkable 36-win campaign in 1894. He led the league in strikeouts 5 times for a Giants team looking to stockpile elite arms. Russi is a legendary addition. The Minnesota Twins, desperate for offense, landed a pair of Hall of Fame bats, the only team to add 2 Hall of Famers this season. Goose Goslin was one of the premier run producers of his era, a clutch hitter with a powerful bat who drove in more than 100 runs 11 times. He was a key member of 2 World Series championship teams and retired with a .316 career average. His running mate in this draft class is Sam Rice, the model of consistency. Rice played 20 seasons and finished with a 322 average and 13 hits shy of 3,000. He was a line drive machine who was a fixture at the top of the lineup for years. Together, they will provide a massive boost for a Twins offense that has lacked pop. Finally, perhaps the most fascinating player in this class, Martin Dihigo, drafted by the Houston Astros. Known as El Maestro, Dihigo is a legend of the Negro Leagues and is enshrined in the halls of fame in 3 different countries. He was the ultimate versatile player, a true 5-tool talent who could excel everywhere, and did. He was a star outfielder, a slick fielding infielder, and a dominant pitcher. He is the only player in the history of the Baseball Hall of Fame to be inducted at multiple positions. For a team like the Astros that has needed help everywhere, they get a legendary athlete who can do it all. An incredible class of 12 legends who will undoubtedly change the landscape of the LSUBL when it rolls on to year 6. The LSUBL draft ushers us into this episode's Drama in Real Life segment. The nature of the Legend Sports Universe Baseball League project makes it a virtual certainty that a number of Hall of Famers will enter the league each season. 17 joined in year 2, a record 22 joined in year 3, 18 in year 4, and 13 for the current season, year 5. And now 12 will join next season. But that got me wondering, what rookie classes in the real major leagues welcome the most Hall of Famers? The first Major League Baseball draft was held on June 8, 1965, at the Commodore Hotel in New York, and it was instituted to prevent richer teams from monopolizing the amateur player market by offering large signing bonuses, which had become a significant financial burden for the league. The first player selected was not a Hall of Famer. The Kansas City Athletics made then Arizona State outfielder Rick Monday the number 1 pick of the first amateur draft. Monday had a very nice career. A lifetime .264 hitter, he hit 241 homers, posted a career OPS above 800, and made 2 All-Star teams, not to mention saving the American flag. That first draft did produce 3 Hall of Famers, though. Johnny Bench, Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver. Though Seaver, selected by the Dodgers, didn't sign and would be drafted again the following year. Not by the Mets, but by the Braves. That pick was voided, however, because of a signing violation, and Seaver was declared an amateur free agent. The Mets won a 3-team lottery over the Indians and Phillies, and Tom Terrific landed at Shea. The 1971 rookie draft featured one of our LSUBL draftees this season, the Royals' George Brett, as well as the Phillies' Mike Schmidt. Talk about lockstep. They were taken 29th and 30th in that draft. Each won an MVP in 1980, and their teams would face off in the 1980 World Series. They were the best in their respective leagues for a decade. This draft also featured a third Hall of Famer, Red Sox outfielder Jim Rice, the 1978 American League Most Valuable Player, and an 8-time All-Star, who was the first of the trio picked, 15th by the Red Sox. A few other classes yielded 3 who were Cooperstown bound. 1973 saw back-to-back picks just like Brett and Schmidt, only this pair went 3rd and 4th. Robin Yount to the Brewers, followed by Dave Winfield to the Padres. It took until the 3rd round for the next Hall of Famer, Eddie Murray, to be taken by the Orioles, his 504 homers making him well worth the wait. The 1985 class also produced a trio of Hall of Famers. Barry Larkin, taken 4th by the Reds, Randy Johnson, taken in the 2nd round by the Expos, and John Smoltz, taken out where the buses don't run, the 22nd round by the Detroit Tigers. This draft could, and depending on your perspective, should have 5 Hall of Famers, were it not for PED furor. Rafael Palmeiro was taken 22nd overall by the Chicago Cubs, and 7-time MVP and home run king, like it or not, Barry Bonds was taken 6th overall by the Pirates. The most recent class to produce 3 Hall of Famers is 1995, which saw the Rockies select Todd Helton at number 8, the Blue Jays select Roy Halladay at number 17, and the new selection that pushed this year to 3 in Cooperstown, Carlos Beltran, taken in the second round by the Royals. 3 is good, but 4, well, 4 is better. That's how many Hall of Famers came out of the class of 1976. Interesting about this class is that none of the 4 were first round picks. Alan Trammell went to the Tigers in the second round, and the Tigers struck gold again in the 5th round with their selection of Jack Morris. Rickey Henderson was taken by Oakland in the 4th round that year. And lastly, though he didn't debut in the majors until 1982, Wade Boggs was drafted in the 7th round in 1976 by the Boston Red Sox. The following year also drew 4 Hall of Famers, and in contrast with the delayed stud picks in 1976, is also the only draft to produce multiple Hall of Famers within the first 3 picks. Harold Baines, yes, I know many hate his Hall election, but he's there, so cope. Baines was the top overall pick in 1977, and 2 picks later, the Brewers selected Paul Molitor. It took until the 4th round for some wizard to pick the wizard, as the San Diego Padres selected Ozzie Smith. Lastly, in the 5th round, a guy I think a lot of people forget is in the Hall, and one of my favorite 80s players, Tim Raines, was selected by the Montreal Expos. Only one draft era rookie list has produced 5 Hall of Famers, yet only one of them was taken in the first round. The White Sox selected Frank Thomas, 7th overall in 1989, and he gave them 2 AL MVP awards in return. In the 4th round, the Red Sox selected Jeff Bagwell, traded a year later to the Astros for Larry Anderson. Yup, that trade happened. A similar fate befell Trevor Hoffman, who was taken in the 11th round, not by the Padres, but by the Cincinnati Reds. Before Hoffman could ever pitch for Cincinnati, he was claimed by the Marlins in the 1992 expansion draft, before finding his home in San Diego, where he was dealt in the Gary Sheffield trade. It took until the 13th round for the Cleveland Indians to select Chief Nakahoma, Jim Thome, and the 20th round for the Toronto Blue Jays to select the man that gave this class its record 5 Hall of Famers, newly selected Jeff Kent. Will any draft class in the LSUBL produce 5 players who make the LSU Hall of Fame? Only time will tell. Few listeners messaged me about the image of Eddie Goodell on the podcast graphic. I'll debut that segment here, and it will be an occasional one, fittingly called Coming Up Short. Its focus is exactly as the name, though not the Goodell image itself, implies. Coming Up Short focuses on a player or team within the Legend Sports universe who fell short of expectations, let one get away, etc. And in similar fashion to drama in real life, we'll note a parallel or two to their situation. It won't be as deep as drama in real life, but more a quick hitter, or fittingly, a short. We head back to the gridiron for this one. And in my Week 14 recap show, as well as last week's initial 3-episode debut of the podcast, I neglected to call out the collapse of the Dallas Cowboys in the LSUFL. After falling in last season's wildcard game, which took a late season surge for them to even qualify for, the Cowboys started year 2 of the LSUFL looking like a team most expected. At 6-2, after 8 weeks, a playoff berth seemed a foregone conclusion. Their offensive malaise that had plagued them for much of year 1 seemingly a thing of the past. until it wasn't. Dallas inexplicably lost their final 6 contests, failing to score more than 16 points in any of them. Their red zone offense completely collapsed. Roger Staubach's great season slipped to merely good, and the defense finished the season ranked 26th in the league. Our historical reference actually involves the Cowboys too, albeit indirectly. The 1993 Miami Dolphins were 8-2 when they went to face the Cowboys in Dallas in the snow on Thanksgiving Day. They won that game on a miracle when Pete Stoyanovic's game-winning field goal attempt was blocked, only to have Leon Lett of the Cowboys slide, lose his balance, whatever the story is, touch the ball, kept it alive, and let the Dolphins recover to get another shot at the win, which they got when Stoyanovich hit his 19-yard chip shot. The infamous Leon Lett blunder should have signaled a Cinderella season for the Dolphins, but it did the exact opposite. The football gods exacted their revenge as the Dolphins lost their final 5 games to miss the playoffs completely, the very definition of coming up short. We'll wrap up this edition of the Stuff of Legends podcast. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying producing it. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope you agree that the half-hour format works well. I'm going to commit to that format probably at least through the end of March, and then we can kind of revisit if it needs to adjust either way or any possible adjustment to it. But I think the half-hour thing works pretty well. It forces me to get through things quickly and not ramble too, which is a good thing. I always try to be respectful of people's time. Anybody who follows this channel knows that I talk about that frequently. So I appreciate any time anybody gives me. On next week's Stuff of Legends, Friday night, we will discuss the divisional playoffs of the LSUFL, as well as take a look, our first look, at the Legend Sports Universe Basketball Association, where we will recap the regular season and set up the Year 2 playoffs. We'll also head back to the Shop Talk segment, which got a week off this week, and have a new Drama in Real Life segment as well. Kindly bang that like button if you haven't, subscribe if you haven't, and ding the bell to be notified of all the Legend Sports Universe broadcasts coming up on the channel, as we'll have the football playoffs, we'll have baseball action returning, and some boxing on the channel this week. Most importantly, as always, be good to each other, and we'll talk soon. See you next Friday for the next episode of Stuff of Legends.